Welcome to the Building the Groundwork podcast. Today I've got Joe Hutchinson, owner, founder of Hutchinson Construction in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Welcome, Joe. Look forward to talking to you today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Why don't just real quick give us the quick 30, 60-second version of who is Hutchinson? What kind of work do you guys do in the market?
Sure. We're a civil contractor here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We primarily do site work for private development, some municipal work.
Mm-hmm. And are you only in the Dallas-Fort Worth region, or do you go outside?
Most of our work is in Dallas-Fort Worth, but we venture out Houston area, South Texas.
Very good. Before I start asking you some questions about your company, what has become a common theme of our podcast is, a lot of people talk about construction and getting into the trades, and what's been common is like understanding people's career paths. Like the people that we get a chance to talk to is like, how did they wind up here?
Sure.
And so I'd love to ask you a few questions about that. I understand that you served time in the Navy, so you were in the military before getting into the industry.
Yes, sir.
How long did you serve in the Navy?
It was about 4.5 years for that.
And that's after high school?
It was, yes, sir.
Okay. So you spent some time in the Navy, then you go to college after that, I believe,
Yes,
Auburn.
right.
Is that right?
I went to Auburn for grad school. Before that, I went to a little-known school, ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe. When I got out of the service, I'd been gone for 4.5 years, and when you're in, you get 30 days of vacation a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I was excited to get home and decided to just go to the local school there. And then after I got my first, career job out of college, I went and started grad school, and that was at Auburn.
And your father was in the industry?
He was. He was also in the Navy. He was a CB, a builder, which is essentially a carpenter, but they learn all trades. And when he got out of the Navy, he put his skills to work doing construction, and that's where I started, essentially as his laborer.
Mm. And you wanted to follow in his footsteps?
Well, I fell in love with construction, and I was really proud of just how my dad executed his work. He was all about doing it right. Had a lot of integrity when it comes to quality, and spending the day. And this was in Louisiana, and spending the days out all summer long working for $6 an hour and busting your tail and with your hands and seeing the product, seeing it come to life, and going through those kind of battles, if you will, putting work in place and being able to step away and see the fruit of your labor was really appealing to me. And the banter with the crew, you get the camaraderie that comes along with that, and being outside, like I just kind of fell in love with it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've talked to a few other people who reference that specific part, and for me, like playing sports, it's like the locker room version, but within construction, right?
Right.
It's that environment where you can break some chops. Yeah, it's fun. That's the stuff that you love going to work for.
That's right.
And then so you started working for some very large general contractors. Is that right? That was like your first major job outside of working with your dad?
I did, yeah. Working with my dad, was small time, light commercial, residential type stuff. And where I grew up is pretty small town. So I didn't even know what I didn't know. And so, but a lot of the big contractors recruited at ULM because, and this is their words, they still say it today. The students that come out of there, they're gritty. They're tough, and a lot of contractors recruited there, and all the big guys. And so, yeah, that's when I left college, I went to work for one of the largest GCs and did a couple worked for a couple different companies before starting this one.
And so that was more of your formal education, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, in a sense, just through experience. Yeah,
And what like one of the things that I've read about like your bio is that you led some of the riskiest and technically demanding projects, having worked with that large GC.
yeah,
What does that mean? Like, what is it? What do those type of projects entail? What make them risky and technically demanding?
sure. So one project in particular that's a great example. We had a project that we pursued. It was a joint venture between our civil division and our federal division. What we were building was a security enclave, which had a lot of different elements, both land and water based elements. One of them, we had to construct it right next to a building that where they actually load nuclear warheads on the submarine.
Mm,
Um, and the security requirements, and there's many other requirements um, that made that very complex. Um, the marine logistics was very complex, and I mean I could talk to you for hours about it.
mm-hmm,
But let's just say, for example, getting concrete into from the base gate all the way down to the pier, you've got four levels of security. And as everyone knows, in construction, you have 90 minutes on a truck. Well,
mm-hmm,
that can get really difficult. Also, within the security enclave, on the other side of the pier is an island, and we had to build out on this island. And all that concrete had to come in um, through marine, on barges, which means we had to find a way to put concrete to sleep. I mean, there's so many complex parts of that job, not just security, just location and everything else. The other thing is the company that I was with, even though they're top 15 ENR company, they had never done marine work self-perform. They had never done this kind of island stuff self-perform, but we had to self-perform because some of our trade partners that had priced the work kind of bailed on it due to the risk. And so we had to find a way to make it work. So the company had never performed this work before. We're on one of the most secure bases in the country.
mm-hmm.
Um, that really the dry dock there, anything that had to do with the pier there, you couldn't shut anything down without a presidential executive order. I mean, this it's serious business, right? What has to be true?
Mm-hmm.
And we made a laundry list, and we developed basically a new planning regime to make sure that we had all of our bases covered, knowing what all the risks are, all the firsts are. Um, and it was very, very detailed and took a lot of upfront work and planning, but that planning is what paid off.
And so, like, how long is that planning phase for a job like that?
It was constant. We broke everything into, you've probably heard the term small win strategy. So
Mm-hmm.
we broke things into small pieces, and then we had our checklist for what that plan had to entail. And unless everything on that checklist was completed, and we presented that to a team of leaders, I was one of those. That definable feature of work, if you will, would not move forward. We made sure all bases were covered, and then we would go execute.
How long did the project take to completion?
It was a little over 2 years.
I'd imagine maybe the difficulty of the job forced such incredible detailed planning that probably helped you in that aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah. We knew if we did not have a good plan, given all the risk and all the variables, that it probably would not go well.
Hmm. That's interesting. What were some of the other benefits of working for such a large established GC?
I would say benefits would be um, flexibility with location. The bigger companies usually have a lot of different offices that you could transfer to if you wanted to.
Hmm.
I'd also say it gives you a little more flexibility on the experience in learning so that you have the ability to make mistakes and they're more easily absorbed by larger companies than small ones, if that makes sense.
It does. Yep.
Mhm. And more
Yeah, it's
resources, obviously.
hmm. Yeah. I mean, getting to your own company, I would imagine that you have such a tremendous sense of confidence having been in that environment and completing those types of jobs to where uh, it carries over into what you're doing today.
Absolutely. I mean, being a part of projects like that and some of the other ones and learning and understanding what it takes to properly plan a job and so that you can mitigate risks and have some confidence in your delivery
Hmm.
is really key. So if we can do that on a high risk job, we can certainly do that on a private development site. And it also helps, I'd say, from the large company, their safety and quality programs are so much more developed than the typical small business. So
Hmm.
being able to take that from, a multi-billion-dollar company and apply the same principles and
Hmm.
approach on a new startup is a differentiator.
Absolutely. Did you like a lot of people I meet like have this like master plan in their mind? You know, they have these goals and this mission. Like, hey, I eventually I want to start my own thing. I want to be my own boss. Was that you, um, or
No,
did you just okay? Interesting.
no. What my vision was is to stay at one company, be committed to them, and work my way up to essentially run a division for them.
Hmm.
Um, but as fate would have it, that didn't necessarily work out. The GCs I worked for were more vertically minded, and even though we had good success at civil, um, they just did not have the appetite to do true civil. They looked at civil as essentially a profit center for other divisions within the company,
Hmm.
and were very tight with what projects we were allowed to pursue.
Hmm.
And if you're in the civil world, you when you get bit by the bug, you can't shake it, and you want to do civil work. And like after doing complex projects, and you're on a high performing team, and you execute really well, you just want the next one. Like you can't go from something like that to just a job where you're pushing a little dirt around. And there's for example, solar and wind projects, there's the tolerances are in feet, not quarter inches, a half inch here.
Hmm.
So you're going from something super complex to something that's not complex at all. And
Hmm.
once you've been through that fight for years and you've executed, it's hard to go backwards.
Hmm.
So
So then, what was that decision process like then to start your own company?
just seeing the movie, like I said, I worked at a couple of large GCs, and it was the same movie over and over.
Hmm.
Um, saying no to really cool civil projects, and I do the upfront work to get positioned and be told no, we can't pursue that. And so I talked to some friends of mine and said, hey, why don't we go do this? And if we're going to do this, how would we do it differently? What are some things that we don't like about our experiences? How can we be different and
Hmm.
also pursue the work that we're passionate about? And then just from a lot of encouragement, both from family, friends, as well as suppliers in the industry that I had a relationship with, saying, "Yeah, we'll
Hmm.
support you." It had just kind of all came together.
That's great. So, how many people was that core group that you started Hutchinson with?
Well, we started with one, and then that core group started to come in. I'd say it was two or three.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then what were some of those differences that you identified? Like, hey, this is, we're going to pursue the projects that we love, that
Mhm.
interest us, but this is how we're going to do it differently. This is what's going to set us apart than everyone else in the market.
Yeah, mainly it was being people focused first, and serving others, and that could be bringing people in that necessarily don't have the right credentials on paper, but you can tell, in their eyes when you talk to them that they're passionate, they have drive, they just need someone to believe in them.
Hmm.
Um, Building a community within the company, and I know there's some folks out there that say, work is not a family. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. We
Hmm.
spend a lot of time with each other, and I wanted to have a group that truly supports one another, that collaborates with each other, and teamwork isn't just a slogan.
Hmm.
Um, so that's number one: serving others, creating a place for people to rise up, to learn, and to better themselves, better their families. That was paramount.
And then you're 4 years in today, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And how has the company evolved? Like I'm sure you remember your first project, right?
Yeah.
What was the first project?
It was the first one was a small um, utility line change on a remodel on a school.
Hmm. Did it take a while to get that first project?
Yeah.
Did you ever question anything, or getting antsy with the time? Like,
Not really. Not antsy on the time because I know it takes time, and talking to other folks that I know in the industry, even civil that own civil companies, I knew it was going to take 6 to 9 months to land that first job.
mhm,
Um, so I fully expected that.
okay.
But as far as questioning things, I mean, I do that all the time. I still do it today.
And
It's
I
it never
imagine
stops.
you're probably operating equipment in the early days at Hutchinson.
There were times, yeah, there were times. Truth be told, I mean, I would much rather, even today, I'd much rather be running a dozer than I would be sitting in the office. Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah, I used to do that back in the days at the large GCs when I get some free time and go visit a job site. A lot of times I drive out to the site and jump and run dozer for a while.
Hmm. And then so you get the first job under your belt, and then you're kind of off and running after that.
Off and running, yeah. It's never slowed down since.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a great market. We operate in the DFW market. We're based in Florida. Yeah, that's why we picked Dallas. 5 months into our existence, was that it's just such a hot construction market, so much more room to grow as well, which is kind of scary. But yeah, it's a good market to start your company in this business. So, how many employees do you have today?
We're around 40.
Okay. Um, and of course, when you start something from scratch, you there's a lot of learnings. One of the things I enjoy talking about, because I've made my fair share of silly mistakes. What were some of the early learnings and mistakes that you kind of encountered, and how have those shaped where you are today?
Early learning. Um, I'd say the biggest thing is that it's always going to be okay. It's easy when something doesn't go right, especially when you're starting out new. And for us, we didn't take on any debt,
Hmm.
um, so we've been bootstrapping since day one. And so when things don't go like they should or how you'd like them to, it's easy to kind of go down a rabbit hole. But what we have to do more often and be cognizant of is all the experiences and training to date, all the things you've been through. You know how to get the things moving again. You know how to take a step back, look at the big picture, develop a
Hmm.
plan, and start working the plan. And if you do that and you have the right heart, like it's going to work out.
Have you always had that mindset, or is that something that you've kind of grown into?
I think both. My military training gave me a strong sense of that, of just keep pushing forward, have strong focus and direction. But it's a very different animal starting a business, because the financials are tighter, especially when you're starting, and then
Mhm.
you got people relying on you. So it's just a little bit different, and that was a tough thing to overcome.
Yeah, the reason why I asked the question is because that I completely agree with you. And I asked this question of a lot of people, and your answer is pretty unique. Not many people say what you said. And for me personally, when I was younger, I reacted more emotionally to things. And you do like a problem happens, and my reaction was like, "Oh my God, this is going to kill us. This is an existential threat to us." And I've been able to kind of grow into the role that I'm in today, where it's like, no, we can work through it. And for the reason, a lot of the reasons of what you just mentioned is that when you're leading a company, you have a lot of people who are looking to you. And so if the leader is the one who's panicking, that is more of the existential threat than anything else. Like you can work through things if you just can focus and identify, like, what went wrong, why did it go wrong, and you can always get back on track. But it starts with that mindset, and I didn't have that early on in my career.
Yeah, I don't think it's for me. I don't believe that you ever in what we're talking about and having that mindset. I don't think you ever get to a pinnacle there. I think it's something that you have to constantly work at,
Hmm.
and in a lot of ways, it's a mental health issue. You've got to be able to step away from work and recharge.
Hmm.
Um, for me, further developing my faith is a big part of how I've learned to overcome. Is just
Hmm.
to have trust and faith that in the end it's going to be okay,
Hmm.
and you just need to take a deep breath, take a step back, get all the information, develop a plan, and move forward. And whatever comes of it, it's at the end of the day, it's going to be okay.
Hmm. How do you identify? I like what you mentioned earlier about some of the company. You're looking for people who have that grit, might not show it on paper. How do you identify those people?
Face to face, it's just a feeling you get.
Mm,
Everybody when you meet someone, you're whether someone admits it or not, you're sizing them up, right? You're
sure.
figuring out what makes this person tick and what's their drive, what's their motivation. Are they here just for a paycheck, or are they here to be somebody and
Hmm.
to be a part of something bigger than themselves?
Hmm.
Um, do they align with our values? Do they care about serving others? Do they care about serving the community? Um, and really, I say we're a service company first. We're here to serve others. We're here to help our teammates improve their station in life, to help them learn. We're here to execute a good project and help our customers have a good experience on their projects. We're here to further develop the community. It's not about, hey, let's go push some dirt today and see if we can beat schedule. I mean that, yeah,
Hmm.
that's part of it, but that's not the driver, if that makes sense.
Do you feel like you yourself are that kind of person where it's like someone took a chance on you that it didn't show on paper? Is that why it resonates with you so much?
Um, yes and no, I guess. Not. I don't think it's so much me as some of the folks in my family that I grew up with, like my dad.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. I have just a strong sense of wanting to help other people that are overlooked.
Yeah, I get it. We had some new hires start 2 weeks ago, and one of them actually asked me, and I loved it. I really did. He just flat out asked me. He's like, because he was a younger guy, and he's like, "Why did you hire me?" He's like, "I'd like to know." He's like, "I'm sure that you had some other really good candidates, and we did, and both myself and the manager for that department." we both kind of agreed like, hey, let's take a chance on this person, because we have a new concept, and it's something that is not easy to sell into this old school industry. And like one of the things that we just saw in that individual was young, highly motivated, and probably won't get deterred, like completely believed in what we were doing. And that was really why we wanted to take a chance on that person. So it's something that speaks to me as well. And I just had experience with it recently.
Well, I think the other thing, as you say that, is just experience with people, in my career,
Mm.
and I always try to help folks move up the ladder as quickly as possible. So even as a young APM, my goal was to give my subordinates as much responsibility as they were willing to handle, because that's how you learn.
Hmm.
When kind of large company norms is, hey, go do submittals for a year and then we'll put you on something else for a year. And whereas I try to give them all the responsibility they could from start to finish, so that they start getting those experiences and learn sooner. And what I noticed was the things you can't teach are the ones that matter the most:
Hmm.
the drive, the work ethic, the care. And so when we started this, it's like, look, I don't care if they have a degree in construction. If they have the drive and they have the aptitude and they're hungry for something and this is what they want to do, let's go.
Impressive. What do you know today that you wish you knew when you started the company?
I'd probably say the same thing as before, that it's going to be okay, because it took me a lot of pain and anxiety to kind of figure that out. Um, so yeah, I would say that just learning that sooner and getting comfortable with it.
Is there anything that keeps you up tonight or at night today?
Yeah. Um, the biggest things is whether or not we are performing to the standard that we set for ourselves,
Hmm.
and performing in a way that we want to perform for our customers, um, or if we're taking good enough care of our people, if they're fulfilled in what they're doing and they feel supported enough.
You've obviously you've mentioned this a few times, just like how much you think about your people that are on your team, and how yeah, that's a big part of your company value. Did you have managers in your past who showed that level of care for you as an employee? Is that something that that you took away from somewhere else, or has it just always been foundational for you?
It's always been foundational, but I did have a boss, in my first company out of college that was that way. And there were some other leaders that I, kind of gravitated towards within the company that were that way.
Hmm.
It's something that I've been passionate about, and when I recognize that in other leaders, those are the ones I gravitate towards. I'm like, I want to be like this person.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, we still talk today, and that's who one of the folks I go to for advice still today.
Have you had any terrible bosses that stand out as
Oh
well?
man, yeah, yeah. There's plenty of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling. Well, in my career, I've learned just as much from people that I don't want to emulate. Like I have certain individuals that have. I'm like, I always want to remember that, and like I want to apply that with my own personality and my own style. But then I've had a lot of where like I will always remember this person. I will always remember how they act, and I will make sure that that never bleeds into our company. So I've been able to learn from both sides of the coin.
Absolutely.
And so if I asked if I just showed up on one of your jobs and I pulled a random employee aside and said, "Hey, tell me what Joe is like as a leader," what would they tell me?
So I've asked this question before, and I was pleasantly surprised that my answer and
It's
their answer
Pandora's
was pretty
box.
aligned. What's that?
It's Pandora's box, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised that what I thought they would say was somewhat aligned. Um, but they would say, I want the best for everyone.
Mm,
Um, I have really high standards, but that I help them get there. Like, training and coaching and mentoring, and but let's have a high performing team. And I think once you're on a high performing team, it's really hard to go back.
mhm,
Um, so I would say that supportive and hardworking. My dad kind of instilled that in me when I was starting out as a laborer with him. He told, and my brother as well, he told us both, if you're going to come out here and work, your last name's the same as mine. So I'm going to be extra hard on you
mhm,
so that you don't catch it from everyone else because they know you're my son. So we had to work, twice as hard to prove ourselves. And I still kind of carry that with me today. I don't feel comfortable asking anyone else to do something I'm not comfortable to do or that I haven't done before.
mhm.
And I'm always willing to jump in. It doesn't matter who it is or what they're doing. If they need help and they need support, I'll stop what I'm doing and go help them out and get it done. So a
Yeah,
little
that's
long, but
no, that's really good stuff. That's what I also wanted to ask you is that now, with your name on the building per se, like what is your day to day like? What are your focus areas?
all the above. It's pre-construction, from building relationships to reviewing estimates. I'll still put estimates together. I'll still call and scope out subs if we have any,
Hmm.
or suppliers. Scope those out. Operations. I'm always checking in on the jobs. If there's complex issues that come up, I jump in there and kind of help coach that along and how we
Hmm.
should uh, clear those issues. Back office, whether it's uh, financial, HR, marketing, I'm deeply involved in all that. So I'd say all facets of the business, and it's
Hmm.
it's every day, all day.
Nice. What area would you say like you're focused on for your own like self improvement in the next couple years? Like what you want to get better at?
It's a good question. I think just leadership. I don't. I think having gone through business school, there's so many facets of being a good leader. It's one of those things where I feel like you can't always do it all the time.
Hmm.
And it just takes a lot of repetition and reminding of how to continuously get better. And um, yeah, I just want to continue to grow as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big believer in you learn by doing, right? And so it's the best way. You're in the middle of it now. I'm sure that you're a better leader today than you were a year ago and 2 years ago. All right, it's just
Exactly.
continue. Like, what are the company vision, goals going out, like 1 year, 3 year, 5 years? Like, what do you see? Do you have like? I'm sure there's some financial goals that you don't have to share, but like, you have 40 employees today. Is there a certain size that you are targeting to be, and or how do you think of that?
No, we have no aspirations on size per se. We do not want to be the biggest in DFW. We don't want to even be in the top whatever range of the largest. Our aspirations have nothing to do with that. Our aspirations are to be the best in DFW. Our goal is to have really good general contractor and owner partners that see the value that we bring and how we attack issues, how transparent we are,
Hmm.
how easy to work with we are, and for them to want us to be their civil partner on their projects and have good projects. That's our goal. As far as growth, our growth plan is really about geographic expansion, not being the biggest in an area.
So it's more a focus on the quality of work. As long as that remains, to your standard that you're setting, then
That's it.
Because you got some important meetings. So I'll be respectful of your time. I appreciate you giving us the time that you did. It was nice to meet you and to talk a little bit about what you guys are up to, and to learn how the company started and your business.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Alex.
Yeah, appreciate it.